The devil can't reach you. He'll send you a girl shorter than 5'7". She has anxiety, stomach issues, overthinks her entire life, and she has at least one A or an E in her name. And if she has both, oh, no.
Did anybody see the video that was going viral this past week of a worker that apparently had clearance to access certain parts of these tunnels that he was showing off on video? Probably not smart, but tunnels of which he showed being clearly underneath the airport. I mean, he showed himself walking into the airport and then eventually walking through numerous hallways of which he gained clearance into.
Welcome back to another episode where I give you my quickest reaction to the craziest TikToks. Step inside, doors closing. Next stop, Quik Reaction TV. Quik.
Video is for entertainment purposes only. Do your own research.
This right here was what they showed on the news, weather report, and even the doomsday fish are acting up. We'll come right back to the 1000th doomsday fish that we've seen so far. But let's check out some unrelated anonymous weather phenomenon. Seems like the East Coast is under some very, very, very hazy skies. You wanna know what these hazy skies remind me of? Derealization. It's unrelated, but it seems like everyone's dealing with derealization lately. What about you? Unrelated, just for attention. I mean, the derealization is just off the chain these days, right? What are these giant circles popping up? Crazy enough, they pop up alongside really, really bad storms. Speaking of storms, this right here has to be a sign. Crazy hail, and it literally stopped on the border. Literally on the border. I guess this crazy hell-like hail is normal now, because it's been everywhere, right? Did you know that scientists are actively adding new cloud patterns to the sky because we're seeing things that we have never seen before? This is the skies. It's not a wave. Like that thing we saw at the very beginning, right? And we've had 3 doomsday fish pop up in the last 48 hours. I've seen 3 different videos in 3 different places. And again, this is like a once in a lifetime, if that, occurrence. But these are happening every single day because something weird's happening on Earth and they are well aware of it. These doomsday fish are literally a sign of just that, apocalyptic earthquakes and crazy things happening on the Earth. In ancient times, they would always see this first, so I really wonder what's going on, even though it's all unrelated. Let me know what y'all think below.
You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious?
Doomsday clock, man-made. Doomsday fish, God-made. I think we need to tap into nature. They know what's going on. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments below.
Did anybody see the video that was going viral this past week of a worker that apparently had clearance to access certain parts of these tunnels that he was showing off on video? Probably not smart, but tunnels of which he showed being clearly underneath the airport. I mean, he showed himself walking into the airport and then eventually walking through numerous hallways of which he gained clearance into. And then he took an elevator down below, which seemed like levels down below, might I mention, and he proceeded to walk through this other hallway. And when he walked outside of the door at the end of this hallway, he showed these vast tunnel systems. I mean, these seem to have stretched out for well over a mile. It looked like you can even drive a fucking semi through them. It's actually crazy because on his video, you can actually see numerous individuals passing by him, some even wearing these full black suits. I mean, these things look like mining tunnels. And then he proceeded to talk about something, which is probably why his video just so happened to be taken down. He proceeded to speak about these aircraft that he claimed were hidden down below in various sections throughout these tunnels. He started mentioning how there's certain individuals apparently that have high security clearance, that have access to those certain parts of the tunnels and shit. He even started to talk about Stargate, proceeded to talk about how apparently—
Stop. What do you mean by that?
The question remains, why didn't these palaces have a toilet? You built this massive palace, and you can't figure out how to put a toilet in? We all know that this is not what happened. We already know they were technologically capable of putting a toilet in if they wanted to. We can see what they created. These things are still here today. And if you've ever been inside one of these structures, you'll know that they weren't constructed for a simplistic, donkey-riding, reading by candlelight, hut-living society. The individuals who constructed these palaces were incredible and purposely left the toilets off the blueprints. And I believe they did this because we are not being told what the true purpose of these structures really are. I believe they've been completely hijacked, just like everything else has. I believe that their true purpose was actually to be an energy machine. They were not constructed for people to go hang out inside of for long periods of time. And I'm going to prove it right now.
Tap the like button if you're feeling the content. Smash subscribe so you won't miss another episode down the rabbit hole. Now let's get back to it. Quick!
Gothic cathedrals are constructed with sacred geometry, constructed using the golden ratio, where we all know that the Notre Dame Cathedral incorporates this ratio all over it, including in its floor plan layout. The golden ratio represents a specific relationship where the sum of two quantities divided by the larger quantity equals the larger quantity divided by the smaller one. These cathedrals are also constructed using the Fibonacci spirals as well as other geometry. These geometric designs, they are created for resonance. And this is where we go even deeper. The layout aligns with frequency harmonics, meaning that these structures were designed to conduct and amplify sound and energy. These structures were not constructed to just go sit inside of the way that we do today. And we are not being told their true purpose. So many cathedrals had massive pipe organs before electricity existed. Well, so we're told. Where so many times these organs were destroyed, renovated, or removed, including the Notre Dame Cathedral, where the grand organ has undergone multiple so-called reconstructions. Portions of the organ have been destroyed during the French Revolution. Another example of this is at the St. Paul's Cathedral, located in London, England, where the original organ was removed in the 1800s yet again, removing and reconfiguring the original pipes. Even in the Cologne Cathedral, Germany, where the organ was removed and lost. Give me a break. Doing this in the 1800s yet again, during a series of so-called restoration projects.
I beg your pardon? I beg your pardon?
Yep. I can't come up with any other reason on why there is no plumbing in none of these buildings, but they're all over. Do your research. Look it up. Any plumbing in any of the existing buildings is all new.
So this gamer is now in prison for life. Now the gamer's name is David, and David is 21, living in Germany, and bro, he's a gamer and he's really into this game called Advanced Wars. And one day in 2008, he finds this fan site dedicated to the game, and he starts spending a lot of time there in the community forum. And on the site, he meets this woman, Joanna. Joanna's 21, she lives in England, and she founded the site. And immediately, David is into her. He thinks she is fine. However, Joanna has a boyfriend, this guy, Matthew, and Matthew's 20. He also founded and runs the Advanced Wars fan site that they all use. But David doesn't seem to care. He still wants her. And over time, he becomes more and more infatuated with her. Like, he is obsessed. And he really doesn't hide it all that well. He's always messaging her on her social media accounts, telling her how amazing she is and how into her he is and how she's the only woman for him. And Joanna, she's definitely not feeling David romantically. I mean, she's happy with Matthew. They share an apartment together. Plus, David's a weird guy. Like, he's kind of an incel. And so she doesn't want to be rude to him or anything like that. So she tries to let him down easy. But David just won't stop. He keeps stalking her on her social media platforms. In fact, he goes harder. Over time, his messages get even more intense and more sleazy. And if that isn't bad enough, at some point, David decides that sending messages to Joanna isn't enough. He needs to go meet up with her in person in England. And so he somehow gets her address from another member on the gaming site. Then, without telling Joanna or Matthew what he's about to do, he travels from Germany all the way over to England. And there, he just shows up to their door unannounced and he starts knocking. And Joanna and Matthew, they aren't home, but they're walking back from a bar. And they spot him outside their apartment and they're like, what the fuck? Now, Matthew is a nice guy. He doesn't want to be rude to David. I mean, they feel bad for him. They think he's, a little off in the head. So they invite him in for a bit. Now, immediately, they realize he doesn't have a place to stay. So Joanna gets on the phone and she starts calling around to local hostels to see if they can find a room for David. And she calls, and she calls, and she calls. And she ends up calling 25 different places, but none of them have any vacancies. And so David is like, oh, that's fine, I'll just stay here with you guys. And you know, they don't want to throw him out on the street, so they're like, all right, fine, you can sleep here on the floor for the night. Here's the thing though. Their apartment is really small, so really the only place he can sleep is on their carpet, which is in their bedroom. And so bro is sleeping in their bedroom now, and Joanna hates this. Like, she's creeped out all night with this weird-ass dude on her floor. The next day, Joanna and Matthew, I guess they finally find him a hotel, and they send him on his way. And for the next month, David stays in England, visiting people who were also involved in the community forum, people who know Joanna and Matthew. And the whole time he's with each of these people, pretty much all he talks about is how much he likes Joanna, which these community forum members find super weird. Not only that, he starts going back to Joanna's apartment periodically and leaving love notes outside for her to find when she comes home from work. Dude is just not gonna quit. Now, after about a month, he goes back to Germany and he continues living his life, playing games and whatnot. And at this point, rumors have gotten back to Matthew. People from the community forum hit him up and they're like, you know, when that David guy was here visiting, all he talked about was your girlfriend. And this pisses Matthew off, and he's starting to realize that David is actually bad news, and he is not going to let this slide. And so he goes to the Advance Wars fan site they run, and in the community, he posts a really long post called The 19 Reasons I Hate David Heiss. And in this post, he lays out what a creep he thinks David is, and all the stalkery things he's done, and he basically talks about how much he hates him. And of course, everyone in the forum reads it, and now they all think he's a creep, which a lot of them already thought that anyway. And so then David sees this post, and now he's all pissed off, and things escalate, and David and Matthew, they start fighting online. And this is when David finally snaps. He decides it's time to go back and get his revenge on Matthew. And so he borrows his uncle's car and he drives all the way to Nottingham, England, where Joanna and Matthew live. And there, I guess he's out on the street near their apartment, and Joanna actually spots him from afar, and she rightly freaks the fuck out. And from there, I guess David chickens out and he just goes right back to Germany. But now Joanna realizes shit is getting real. And so she sends him a message basically telling him to get psychiatric help. And he writes her back and he says, Joe, one day I'll break my promise and come back to Nottingham and offer you a knife or something and tell you to kill me because I don't want to live without you. Now, of course, she's really freaked out, so she and Matthew immediately ban him from the community forum and she cuts off all contact with him. And a couple of months go by, and cutting off contact must have worked because they don't hear anything more from David. So, problem solved. Until back in Germany, David comes up with an insane plan to try and win Joanna back. He's going to unalive Matthew and stage it to look like Matthew unalived himself. And so he flies from Germany back to England again. And there he goes straight over to Joanna and Matthew's building. And he doesn't knock on the door or anything like that or try and go inside. Instead, he camps out in a sleeping bag near an AC unit overnight. The next morning, Joanna leaves for work, and David is nearby watching her leave. As soon as she leaves the building, David enters it, and he goes upstairs up to her and Matthew's door, and he knocks, and he pulls out a knife. Then Matthew answers, and as soon as he opens the door, boom, David attacks him, and he stabs him again and again and again until Matthew stops moving. He stabbed him 86 times. And this is such a brutal attack that David now knows he can't make it look like Matthew did this to himself. Matthew couldn't have stabbed himself 86 times. And so David decides to make it look like a robbery gone wrong. So he starts trashing the place, knocking things over, dumping out drawers. Then he leaves and he flies back to Germany. Here's the thing though, Matthew actually didn't die immediately. When David left the apartment, he was still barely alive. So he uses his last little bit of energy and he uses his own blood to write the letters D-A-V on the side of his computer monitor. The first 3 letters of David's name, so that everyone will know who did this to him. Those 3 letters are all he can manage before he, unfortunately, passes away. And of course, this clue, combined with all the well-documented stalking, lead police to know exactly who did this. And eventually, German police show up to David's door, and bam, they arrest him. Here's his mugshot. And David is extradited back to England, and he's found guilty, and he's sentenced to 18 years to life in prison.
Lock his ass up! Lock his ass up! You're going to jail. You're going to jail.
That's the episode, Quik Crew. Thanks for chilling to the end. Please like, comment, subscribe. Stand back, doors are closing. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Quik Reaction TV. Remember, keep God first, respect yourself, and remember to forgive. And I'll see you in the next vid. Quik.